Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo. I am super excited to have a VIP guest. And there's a connection with, if you guys have been keeping up with the dental cribs, there's a connection there, but I will talk about that later. It's David Lohmann, CEO of Apex Dental Partners. All right, before we get into this next episode, I'd like to give a shout out to one of our premier sponsors, Wallace Specialty Insurance. Now, I actually use them for myself. And when you're thinking about insurance to cover you, right, whether that be disability, whether that be malpractice, or any other kind of insurance, look at Wallace Specialty Insurance. They have been working with dentists for over 25 years. Reach out to them, get a free consultation, and ask them for the Nifty Thrifty deal. Wallace Specialty Insurance. David, how's it going?
I'm great. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. And so let's talk about that connection, right? We just did a dental cribs with Dr. Layla Lohmann. And if you kind of put the clues together, this is her husband right here. And so let me ask you this. Let's just dive right into it. How did she rope you into this dental business here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a lot of what we have built Apex around has been entirely based on her experience going through dental school, coming out of dental school, how the industry was changing pretty rapidly, dramatically during that time. And so, a lot of what we've built, a lot of our model is geared around kind of how she entered the industry and what she was looking for as a young dentist.
And the thing is you got a front row to that, right? You had a front row seat to the issues with, I'm working for this other doctor, I'm an associate, I'm doing all these things, I have student loans, all those things. How did that really help you just kind of mold? Because I love the culture that is at Apex. Mm-hmm. And when I was talking to Layla, and she just literally, like, everything she said was just so amazing there. And she was like, well, that's our culture. That's what we do. So how much of her experience and you kind of sitting through that and listening, because you know how dentists are, we just love to talk about dentistry all the time. And non-dentist people are like, what? And I tell people, you hang around dentists long enough, you're going to learn a thing or two as well.
Sure.
So talk about how those stories, those experiences really help you kind of shape what you guys are doing at Apex.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, Layla and I started dating in college. We've been together a very long time, had a front row seat of kind of that application process through studying, that application process, 4 years of dental school. And, as you said, Layla's incredibly passionate about dentistry. She had a very defined view of why she wanted to be a dentist, what she hoped to provide to her patients. And, as she came out of dental school, the economy was emerging from a pretty deep recession at that time. The industry was changing. Group dentistry was emerging that didn't really exist in much scale, 4 years prior. And so she had this very defined view of what she thought her career was going to be. It was going to be that private practice, name on the door, that practice that you and I likely grew up going to. Yeah. And she came out of dental school, and I think 50 of her 54 classmates went to work in a non-private practice setting. I think that was a big change for her. I witnessed it. I saw the struggles, kind of that emotional struggle of this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. It's probably not isolated to dentists. Many people come out of college and go, this is not what I thought my career was going to be right away. She ultimately went to work for what is still one of the largest dental groups in the country. And I think overall had a very good experience, learned a lot, great training. I think knew pretty early on that the specific model, that doctor-patient relationship, wasn't exactly what she was looking for. Mm-hmm. We were sitting there seeing a lot of change in the industry. We saw an opportunity, I think, to build an organization together that took that high-quality private practice, gave it a place into the future, that took the values, the look, the feel, the culture of a private practice, and really matched that with the resources of a much larger organization. Yeah. Look, I'm passionate about it. I'm sure you can tell. And I think we're passionate about what we've built at Apex and are really protective of, as you started out, that culture that we've created. Yeah.
And so before we kind of dive in further and about Apex and kind of the plans for the future and what you hope to accomplish, let's center in your background here. So obviously, you were dating a lady. She went to dental school. You kind of, like most dental spouses, you kind of got just pulled into it,
That's right.
But let's talk about your background. What was your background before Apex?
Yeah, I have a finance background. So started my career as an analyst in investment banking in New York City. I was in New York while Layla was going through dental school in Oklahoma. We did long distance for 4 long years and went from investment banking into private equity for 4 years. And that really shaped, I think, a lot of my approach to building Apex. I have a business partner, co-founder, Matt Hale. He and I worked together prior to founding Apex. And a lot of what we have built has been, and the way we've built it, the way we've invested in the business, the way that we've thought about taking outside capital, it's all been really around that kind of thesis and belief that there's a better way to build a business from the ground up, to make long-term decisions. It takes, I think, very intentional decision-making early on to do that. But we wanted to build a business, A, that mattered, B, that had a great reputation, and I think along with those that had the ability to last, that wasn't, point-in-time specific or niche-y, but was truly built from the ground up to be something that could be great.
In your wildest dreams, right, when you were dating Layla all those years and you were in New York, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you would be working together in a business?
No, and look, for anybody that has worked with their spouse, it adds, and I know you have, it adds a degree of difficulty maybe to a marriage as well. Sure. Something you have to navigate. I think Layla and I, pretty early on decided, look, if there was kind of business discussions that needed to be had with her and Matt were going to have those together. They don't have that same emotional baggage in a way, or connection that we do. And to this day, it's not that we're great at it, but we still try to, I think, hold on to that. Look, there's if you allow that business relationship to dominate your personal relationship and aren't drawing lines, it can be challenging. I'm so proud that we have built it together, that she's been a big part of building Apex from day one. But no, I certainly, we never set out to from day one to build a dental business.
Well, it sounds like the key there is actually having boundaries.
Sure.
Yeah, having boundaries there. And, I will say just, working in a practice with my wife and doing other business ventures, that's the thing. Because at the end of the day, when you don't have a way to put boundaries or even have some kind of mediation, we, as husbands, we're always going to lose, right? We're always going to, when we talk about what everyone brings to the table and, I had these kids for you. What can we say, right? So it's good to actually have boundaries there and have mediation there. So again, I always joke around with my wife that you're the boss at work and boss at home. I just kind of follow rules there. But, in all honesty, we have to have those boundaries because, you could be talking about business all the time, and there's other things you got to talk about, right? Sure. Important things like, where are we having dinner this weekend, right? Which is, I don't know about you, David, but that's like a question now that with my daughters involved, no one ever has the answer to. It seems like we don't know where we're going to eat all the time. So there's a lot of those things we have to deal with. But, let's go back to Apex here. And how many locations currently does Apex have, and what are your future growth plans there? Yeah,
we're 41 offices today, spread across kind of the major metroplexes in Texas, Oklahoma, and Colorado. So we've got a very defined model. We stick to kind of larger markets. Building density in those markets is a big part of kind of the business plan from the very beginning. And really, it's all been centered around access to talent. We build practices. And I say we're an affiliations model, so we're not building practices from the ground up, but building in the sense of growing. But our model is extremely doctor-centric. That doctor-patient relationship is centric to our model, and that patient expectation is there. And so from the beginning, we knew that the ability to attract, retain high-quality talent had to be kind of front and center to our model. Yeah. So we've grown to 41 locations over the last 8 years. It's certainly been more than we set out to, to build, if you will, but we've had a lot of fun doing it and I think excited about the future. We get asked the question a lot of what that goal is in terms of number, and it's never really been the approach we've taken. We've never set out to be the largest organization in dentistry. It's always been the goal to be the highest quality organization. Right. We wanted to be that Mayo Clinic of dentistry. Not in terms of single location, but that brand recognition that doctors wanted to be a part of, their teams wanted to be a part of. And I think we've, without a focus on a specific number of offices per year, it's allowed us to maintain that discipline, that set the bar high on we're growing around great people, and we'll grow at a pace in which, offices that fit our model and doctors that want to be part of what we're building kind of present themselves.
I think that's super important that you just lay that out, because a lot of times, and for those who are watching this right now, they kind of like to lump DSOs, group practices into one category, right? They're all like this. And whenever I talk to someone who has that mentality, I tell them it's almost like you're saying that, people from a particular city all act a certain way.
Right.
People from the East Coast all has a certain way of talking or a certain way of relationships, right? And so I love the fact that you disclose that, because there's other models where it's let's get as many as we can,
sure,
right, and let's grow it. And I'm not discounting that or anything. That's their philosophy, but there's other groups like yourself that it's not about the volume; it's more about the quality of the practice and the connection, that having the right relationships there.
Right. And look, I think that you alluded to it. There is no right model here. I think I'm really excited about where dentistry is. I think if you open your email, read a lot of industry publications, there's plenty of people out there peddling fear that
Sure.
Private practice is dead, or all groups are fit one model, and I don't believe any of that. I think the most exciting thing about dentistry right now is that if you are looking for a partner, if you're looking to join a group, there are so many options out there.
Yeah.
That we're very clear that we are not the right fit for every dentist, and vice versa. But what's exciting is you don't have to say, sorry, your only option is to continue doing it yourself. There are so many other groups out there that may have a different model to us, but may fit a very specific, niche or doctor or geography, and really provide that partnership that, dentists are, in our view, looking for.
So let's, again, we've already kind of talked about this, but let's just face this particular myth just head on.
Sure.
Right? And it's the myth of, for DSOs, large group practices are going to be the end of dentistry, and they're totally against the single practitioner. What do you say to that? Because I'm sure you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. It's extremely annoying. But what's your take on that when people bring that up to you?
Yeah, I think it couldn't be farther from the truth. And I think if you talk to any leader of a group out there, a DSO out there, they will unequivocally tell you that's not their goal. There's so much white space in this industry. You look, I'd challenge you to find many other industries where you look at a single building or a single, commercial development, and there's 3 or 4 of the same businesses all in one location and all doing great.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of patients. There's no, true shortage of kind of white space out there for dentistry to continue growing. I think there has been a tremendous amount of capital that's come into the industry over the last, decade or 20 years. But a lot of that's been about growing the pie. It's been about expanding the service offering, from insurance and payer mix to rural dentistry to suburban dentistry. It's really been about an expansion of access to care. And I think the beauty of that is it provides even more opportunity, whether for that solo practice, private practice owner, or groups to continue growing and providing that, support and partnership that I do believe an increasing number of dentists are looking for. But I don't think anyone is under the belief that every dentist is looking for that.
Right.
So we're big believers in it's not a zero-sum game. We can all win together. And I think if you've had a lot of, I think, interaction with DSO executives and others in the industry, and I think a lot of them will tell you that, look, it's an industry that's actually quite open about sharing success, sharing best practices, and it's because there's this belief that we can all win together.
Yeah, I mean, it's that abundance mindset, right? I think
Totally.
I think people who are concerned about those things, it's a little bit of scarcity mindset there. But I will say this too, as things change. I mean, looking back at when I started, when I graduated from school and things now, there's been so much innovation as well, so much growth, right? And we look at, we grew up. I remember people used to have an issue when Barnes and Noble was around, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, the mom and pop, oh my gosh, that's the end of it. And now we're looking at, okay, well, there's Amazon, right? Or if you look at Walmart and you look at what Amazon is now, it's all about just leveling up and whether you like it or not, because again, a lot of times people will say like, oh, I wish things were, well, there's a lot of things I kind of miss Blockbuster. I kind of miss going out there, but I also understand the realities there. With that being said, looking at how things are moving towards the future, do you see that, the mentality of the doctor, because the mentality of the doctors graduating is very different from when Layla and I graduated.
Sure.
It's extremely different. There's certain things that they prioritize in their lives more than maybe being an entrepreneur and open to their own practice. But seeing how the mindset of the new graduates, but also where dentistry is going, do you see kind of like these groups becoming more and more prominent in the future?
Yeah, I think no doubt. I mean, look, I do believe you'll continue to see the expansion of group dentistry, of DSOs out there. Again, I don't think that means there isn't a place for that dentist that values, being an entrepreneur, being a solo practice owner. Look, there's a lot of models that also allow that, that ownership in your practice and still the support. So there, again, I think there's so many opportunities out there. But yes, to your question, I think you will continue to see the expansion of groups out there. I think that a big part of that is, yes, there is a different, I think sometimes it's characterized as a different mindset, but it's a little bit, different generations, ourselves included from prior generations, have placed different values on different aspects of life. I'm a big believer that this young dentist coming out of school today doesn't have any less desire to be a great dentist than prior generations.
Right.
It's how they want to achieve that is different. How much time do they want to spend at their practice after they see that last patient? How much flexibility do they want to have in having that family life, in having that flexibility, in not having to beat their head into a wall to figure it out themselves? But again, whether that's group dentistry, I know, you've been very active in dentistry about providing some of that buying power, some of that support, some of those access to deals that might otherwise only be available to groups, to give that, solo dentist a chance. And again, a lot of doctors who have joined us, they aren't necessarily looking to get out of dentistry. They're not looking to not be a leader in their practice. They're looking for that support and that partnership. And so, long answer to a relatively simple question, which is, I do think they'll continue to expand, but I think the opportunity set is expanding as well.
Well, and if you the best thing that anyone can do, if you have these ideas of what a DSO is or group practices and whatnot, is to really just reach out to whatever those groups are and learn more, right? I mean, that's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to have David here, is because you heard so many different perspectives from other industry leaders. I wanted you to hear his perspective as well. And so with that being said, for you, not the company, but for you personally, what are your kind of like goals here, at this point in your life? Is it just more like trying to elevate Apex and just keep connecting with your family and extended family? But what are like some of your goals for the future?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, a deep question, actually. Look, I think I'm at a point in life where I've put a lot into this business. Layla and I both have, as I said, Matt, my partner, we all have. You look across our leadership team, we have continued to build a phenomenal team. Most of them have young kids as well, as do we. And I think there's a real recognition that there's so much value in having both, in having that balance of being a great person, whether that's a husband, a spouse, a father, a parent, whatever that is, that and having professional success shouldn't be mutually exclusive. It takes work, it takes diligence and setting boundaries and things like that. But, for me, I've got young kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. They're at such a fun time in life, and I want to be present. I've tried to be intentional about that, as they've grown up, but it's a continued focus of mine. They're ever more aware of my presence, of our presence as parents. And at the same time, we've built a business of some scale, and we've got a lot of teammates that depend on us as leaders
you have
for their employment. And so, we all feel that we owe a certain amount of I think dedication to them as well. They've shown tremendous loyalty over the years to us as a company, as leaders, and so it's really finding that balance. I think it's a moving target in a lot of ways as your business grows. The demands on your time change. As your family grows, the demands on your time change, and it's really finding that balance for you as a person.
Yeah. Would you say that the fact that most of the leadership are in kind of the same, I would say, stage in their lives, is that impact like the culture of the business?
It does. I would say a good majority of our team is kind of in that same point in their life.
With young kids that they want to be present with, but also highly driven, want to grow the business as well. So there's multiple factors in your life that you want to be present in.
Absolutely, and for us, it's a big part that they're able to do that as well. When we add anyone to our team, we always take a long-term approach. We think of that at the practice level, at the sports center level. We want to recruit people who can be with us for a very long time, ideally the remainder of their career. And I think a big part of that is putting them in a position to be successful professionally, but personally as well, allowing them to draw those boundaries without believing that it's impacting their professional, kind of future and development. And so, we do a lot of things that are culture things that are geared around family. As we have grown as an organization, we used to do family picnics for the entire organization. As we've, expanded markets and everything, we've had to get creative on how to do that. But I do think allowing children to see what their parents do is really important. We all have, our heroes, and for many of us, those are our parents. And I think allowing them to see that what their parents does matters is really important, but also allowing that time, those boundaries to be drawn, that time outside of work to, be dedicated to that personal life as well.
So for the doctors who are watching this right now, the dental professional watching now, and they're like, I'd like to learn more about Apex. I'd like to see if that could be a potential home for me. What's the best way to connect with you guys?
Yeah, so our website is apexdp.com. D is in dental, P is in partners.com. We have a number of kind of submission forms online. We've got numbers on there that you can call directly. You mentioned earlier, there's so much value in exploring what's out there and understanding. We have affiliated doctors that when they picked up the phone and called, had absolutely no intention of affiliating their practice, certainly not with Apex. They were originally exploring options and liked what they heard. And I think there's so much value in that. We see doctors oftentimes wait too long to begin exploring what's out there. The value of what, for many doctors, is their largest asset, single asset. Whether that's health, production declines, anything. They miss kind of that sweet spot because they were afraid to ask the questions, explore. And we're big believers in do your research, understand what's out there. I think I said earlier, we may not be the right fit, but I think there are so many options out there. And even if ultimate private practice ownership is, for the remainder of your career is what's right for you, I think we all benefit from knowing how our industry is evolving.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for being on the podcast here. And again, I really wanted to bring you on here because there's so many misconceptions out there. A lot of times when you think about DSOs or these big group practices, it's almost like this faceless entity, right? Well, it's not, right? So again, many of you have already seen the dental cribs with Layla, and now you've met David. Now you understand, right? Now you understand. So thank you so much for being on here. And guys, if you have any more questions, whether it comes to DSOs, group practices, just reach out to all these groups, learn for yourself, form your own opinion, and don't listen to others, form your own opinion. So again, David, thank you so much for being on.
You bet.
Guys, we'll see you next time.